Let's examine this reader who calls herself Light in the Darkness. As a pattern, we already recognize what we're dealing with. Individuals operating through heavy manipulation, adopting the appearance or language of light, while embodying something else entirely. When someone labels themselves as light, should we automatically believe them? Well, truth is never revealed at face value. It exists within the larger picture. So at first glance, you encounter one of her readings titled, "They Thought You'd Go Crazy, but you slayed. You slayed them with your silence." Now they're looking like... So on the surface, the narrative positions a clear villain, and you may initially accept that framing. Now, widen your lens to 50%. You notice another of her readings, and then another. A pattern emerges. Nearly all of her content revolves around a so-called villain. And the focus consistently centers on the character, the flaws, and alleged actions of a specific figure. Now, it begins to feel less like insight and more like character assassination and talk-shitting. Now, adjust the lens to 75%. You realize that multiple tarot readers are pushing the same narrative, mirroring one another's messages. It no longer feels coincidental. It starts to resemble coordination within a group. Now at 85%, you come across a tarot reader openly whistleblowing, claiming that someone is paying tarot readers to spread specific messages. Now finally, at 100%, the pieces align. The broader picture reveals itself. Deception, manipulation, and gang stalking. The truth was never meant to be obvious. It was always hidden beneath layers, waiting for those willing to look beyond the surface. Because truth is never found on the surface. There is always a bigger picture. Anyone who seeks to deceive is almost always compelled to announce that they are light, good, or chosen. They label themselves chosen, flamboyantly and boldly. And this is not accidental, it is strategic. True light does not need proclamation. So by flamboyantly declaring themselves as light, deceivers exploit a psychological shortcut in others. Most people are conditioned to associate spiritual language with safety and moral authority. So once that association is established, the deceiver gains immunity from scrutiny. And questioning them begins to feel like questioning goodness itself, and that is exactly the shield they want. Light does not need to recruit belief. It allows itself to be seen naturally. Deception must constantly reinforce its image because it cannot withstand sustained observation. So in essence, flamboyant declarations of being light are not proof of purity. They are often advertisements. And anything that must advertise its virtue so aggressively is usually trying to distract from what would be revealed if one simply watched closely. That and if you do watch closely, you'll just hear them talk shit all the time. Patiently and without the spell of the label. So another pattern we have already uncovered with satanic healing, destiny thieving group is this. Is that they are the very evil that they speak about. So one of their primary narrative control technique is to tell a story that sounds almost right. But then there's some thieving involved in here. They deliberately assign the credit, the blame, or identity to someone else. So take this title as an example. They thought you'd go crazy, but you slayed them with silence. They're looking like so. In the reading, the so-called attacker, according to her, is portrayed as merely passionate to attack the other individual. But in my case, if these individuals are attempting to frame me as someone passionately attacking others, that's lie. That's a lie. My passion is not aggression, and it is the pursuit of justice and the exposure of injustice. And what we are witnessing here is manipulation at its finest. Reframing. It's like I am telling the truth, but they reframe it as attacking or lying. They are lying, and they reframe it as truth-telling or exposing someone. All the while, what they're actually performing are humiliation rituals built on lies. Now, they are being exposed, not through lies, but through substantial evidence, repeated patterns, and even whistleblowers from within their own ranks. They know that the truth will surface. It always does. It only takes time. And because they are being exposed, they escalate. Psychopaths do not retract, they double down. So expect counter manipulations exactly like the repetitive narratives we're now seeing about silence. This group and their target are competing for the role of victim because destiny thieves must always, of course, to get your role. They project experiences they inflicted onto the target, then weaponize those narratives against the person who is finally speaking out. So right now I'm speaking up, and their counter is to claim that the victim won through silence, which is absolute nonsense. Why? Because we know, if you consider that we're dealing with narcissists and it's a narcissistic group, narcissist abuses by proxy. Like what clearly happened to me, the star readers served as the flying monkeys doing all these smear campaigns. Narcissists use flying monkeys, other people, to attack, spread rumors, and apply pressure on their behalf. And this allows them to remain hidden, deny involvement, and preserve an image of calm innocence or moral superiority than you. So these flying monkeys will then create triangulation, social isolation, and confusion for the target. Then any reaction from the target is then used as proof that the target is really the problem. So I saw a reading about silence this morning. And I find this comical. So what if the truth about the silence is this? So in that reading, it says, they played the victim. Now the mask is falling. So essentially, it describes someone who adopted the victim role, hid behind silence, then reframe betrayal as healing and setting boundaries, while trying to silence the real victim so they could rewrite the story. Now, the narratives they carefully built are now starting to crack. The inconsistencies are becoming visible, and the silence once used to control perception has turned into evidence. It mentioned here as, you can bury the truth, but when it returns, it doesn't whisper, it reveals. So, someone who saw through it early and had the courage to speak the truth exposed everything. And for that, they were cast as the villain. Now, there's an attempt to bury the proof because the truth is no longer hidden. It is walking and talking. Now, that silence was never stillness or growth. It was a strategy in concealment. And the departure wasn't about protecting peace, but protecting a lie. Wrapped in a stage, almost wholly quiet, that convinces others. It is emotional intelligence being weaponized through silence, paired with deliberate provocation to the real victim. And while I don't fully trust the video because there's someone out there claiming my experience as right, because their pattern of deception often tells a true story with the wrong characters in it. But if this interpretation and this narrator has the right characters in it, well, I completely agree. Then, consider a tarot reader who just released a video. It was titled, "This Thievery and Bullying Ends with Quiet Justice." Seen publicly. Well, as usual, she frames the supposed victim as embodying a Queen of Cups energy, again in this reading, while never acknowledging that this narrator, this tarot reader, the same tarot readers are in fact the ones engaging in the theft and bullying. This is the very energy that I'm experiencing. So this showed the pattern, the repetition of the same pattern of energetic forgery of the Queen of Cups archetype backed by a collective that operates through deception and harm. You see, evil doesn't innovate. It simply repeats itself in familiar cycles.